Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be working on convert an array into 2D array with conditions. And I think it's closer to an easy problem, to be honest, than a medium problem, but regardless. You're given an integer array nums and you want to create a 2D array from nums satisfying the following conditions. The 2D array should only contain the elements of the array nums, and each row in the 2D array contains distinct integers. The number of rows in the 2D array should be minimal. Return the resulting array if there are multiple answers. Return any of them. Note that we can have number of elements on each row. So if in this first example of 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, we have 3 rows because all the elements need to be used and every row needs to have distinct integers. And in the second example, it's already all distinct, so you can just have one row. So this problem is kind of straightforward, and instead of drawing out an array of numbers, let's just write out a bunch of numbers and some counts and figure out how we could do that. So let's say we have the number 1 with a count of 5, the number 2 with a count of 4, the number 3 with a count of 4, the number 4 with a count of 3, and maybe like the number 5 with a count of 1. Right, let's say we have all these numbers, an array of all these numbers, and we're asked to build this thing up. So you know that like all your numbers need to be in different rows, right? So if we have 5 ones, we have to have 5 rows, right? And like we might need more rows total, but we know we need to at least have 5 rows. Similarly for this 5, we need to have 1 row. For this, we need to have 3 rows. For this, we need to have 4 rows, 4 rows, 5 rows. So you can quickly figure out that the number of rows we need is the maximum frequency of an element. Right? Whatever element occurs the most, we need that many rows so there can be a distinct number of those numbers. So in this case, it's 1, so we're gonna need 5 rows. So let's just have 5. Let's just say we'll have like 5 arrays here. So let's just say we have this one, and we can copy it a few times. So 2, 3, 4, 5. And now how are we going to place this? Well, like I said, we need the ones to all be in different rows, so we can just be like, okay, let's just put a 1 like this. So we're done with those. They're all unique. Now how about 2s? Well, we can just keep putting 2s from the top down, right? So we can go 2, 2, 2, 2. What about 3s? We can go 3, 3, 3, 3, and 4s, 4, 4, 4, and 5. And this would always work, right? So essentially, you just figure out how many rows you need, which is the maximum frequency of an element, and then every element you just start at the top row and you just keep putting it into different rows. And this would totally work no matter what, right? Like if you had more things, it would work, and if you had like 5 5s or something as well, it would totally work, right? If this is 5, then we would put a 5 here, 5 here, 5 here, 5 here, and 5 here. And the order doesn't matter, but essentially this is going to be kind of our strategy. We're going to put the first element of an array that we see, like we're going to have a counter of all these things. And when we get the first of any number that we see, we're going to put it into this one. Then when we have the second one, we're going to put it into here. The third, we're going to put into here, and so on, right? All the way down. And so basically our strategy, now let's think about like if we just have an array of a bunch of random numbers, how that's going to work. So let's say we have this. Let's move it down. Let's just say we have this array of random numbers. Let's say our numbers are like 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 3, 3, 1. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to have some kind of result array, and we're going to have a hash map, right? And we're going to be going through all of our elements. So let's draw a little arrow here. So let's try to actually do this. There we go. Okay, so we'll have a hash map and we'll have an actual result array. So our result array will just start out empty, right? And we're just going to check. Okay, we reached a 1. So, and we can start with an empty result array. And basically what's going to happen is we reach a 1. We're going to say, do we have any 1s? No. So we're going to add 1 with a count of 1. And now remember, the first one is going to go into the first row. So we're going to check, is there a first row? If there isn't, we'll just make an empty array, because there isn't, and we'll throw in a 1. Then we're going to move over here, and we're going to say, okay, well, what's the count now? It's 2. So is there a second row? No, there isn't. So let's make a second row, and let's throw in a 1. Then over here, we're going to say, is there a third row? Because the count is 3 now. And if there isn't, we'll make it, and let's throw in 1. Now for the 2, so we're going to have a 2 here, and we're going to say the count of 2 is 1. Is there a first row? Yes, so let's put in the 2. Then we're going to keep going. So once we get to this one, the count will be 2, and so we can update that to be 2, and we'll put it in here. There is a second row. Then we go over here. The count is 3. So 3, we'll put it into the third row because it already exists. Then we hit a 1 again. We're going to check, do we have a fourth row? No, we do not. So let's add a fourth row. So we will add another one with a 1. Then, and we'll update this count to 4. And essentially, this basically keeps going. So let's quickly finish the rest of this. So 3, we'll have a count of 1. We do have a first row, so we could throw it in here. Then after this, 3 will have a count of 2. So we're going to put it into this row. And then for this last number, 1 will have a count of 5. And we don't have a fifth row yet, so we'll make a fifth row and put in a 1. And this is always going to work, right? We can basically just check what's the count. That's the row it should go into. The first one will go into the first row, second one, second, or so on. Is there a row? If there's not, let's just append an empty array. And because the count will only increase by 1 every time, the most we'll ever have to make at one point is 1, right? Like if we are on the 5th one, that means we will at least have 4 rows already because we already put in the 4th one. So you just keep putting in a new row every time you need it, and then finally you will always get a valid result. And so that's kind of what we're going to do, and let's code it up. So we're going to have a result array, and we're going to have a counts dictionary. And we're just going to say for num in nums, if num in counts, or I guess if num not in counts. Actually, we could do it another way. We can use a default dict here. Yeah, let's just use a default dict. Default dict int. There we go. So counts num plus equals 1. Then we just simply check, is that index already there? So if length of the result is less than counts num, right? So for example, if the counts num is 5, that means there need to be 5 rows. If this is less, we'll add another row. So we'll just say res.append a new row. And finally, then we will append our number to whatever row it needs to go. So we can say res at index counts num minus 1, right? Because the first number will go in index 0, second number will go at index 1. So this is minus 1 dot append our actual number. Then we can just return the result. And that should be it. So let's see what happens. Counts equals default misspelled. Okay. Yeah, and there we go. So all these are kind of similar, so they're just all over the place. But yeah, if you just run it a bunch, it's pretty inconsistent. So this is like fine. So yeah, so let's talk about the time and space for this one. So essentially we are just doing a 1 pass. So that's just going to be O of n, where n is the length of nums. This is why I said this is kind of more of an easy problem, because the constraints are so small, like an n cubed solution will pass, but we have a linear time. And for the space, this is going to be O of n as well, because every single number can be completely unique, in which case your dictionary would have n keys. And yeah, so pretty easy one, kind of an easy start to the new year. So yeah, if you did like this one, then please like it, and please subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.